Jambo to everybody. Jambo to everybody. I would like first to welcome you to this semester. During this semester, I'll be actually training on strategic management and also fire safety and prevention. Today, we are going to focus on strategic management, and we are going to do an introduction. Remember, my name is Mr. Wayne. I am a director at Brand Institute of Forensics and Security, and I humbly welcome you on board. And I am happy that you made a decision to study with us. We are always focused to deliver value to the best of our ability. We are going to straight away go to an introduction, and we will do introduction of terms. What I'll do, we are going first to talk about strategic management because that is our topic. However, I'm going to find time, and then we shall briefly discuss management, types of management, theories of management, to bring you up to the level that we want. Because when we talk about strategic management, then we have first to think about what is management and who is a manager and what is the role of a manager and how a manager is supposed to participate in the strategic management plans of the particular organization. So the word strategy, let's begin with the word strategy, comes from the Greek word strategos, which means a general. In military science, strategy literally means the art and science of directing military forces in a war or battle. Today, the term strategy is used in business to describe how an organization is going to achieve its overall objectives, which means organizations have overall objectives. Even you as an individual, you have your overall objectives. You as a family, together with your family, you have your overall objectives. What do you intend to achieve? Most organizations have several alternatives for achieving its objectives. Strategy is concerned with deciding which alternative is to be adopted to accomplish the overall objectives of the organization. Because organizations exist for different reasons. There are organizations that exist to make revenue. There are organizations that exist to support the human cause, the human life. They are not concerned mainly with making income. And there are other organizations that are related to the government, and they have alternative, they have different objectives. So strategy is concerned with deciding which alternative is to be adopted to accomplish the overall objectives of the organization. Strategy is a comprehensive long-term plan. It tries to answer three main questions. What is the present position of the firm? What should be the future position of the firm? And what should be done to attain the future position? When we talk about a firm, we are talking about an organization, we are talking about an enterprise, we are talking about a particular entity, either in the business world or in the personal, even in the personal perspective. When we talk about a firm, we are talking about let's say mainly an organization, an enterprise, or a particular company. So strategy is what is the present position of the firm? These questions. What should be the future position of the firm, and what should be done to attain the future position? So we look at the present, we look at the future position, and what should be done to attain the future position. When we talk about these things, we are also going to talk about mission, we are also going to talk about vision, we are also going to talk about goals, we are also going to talk about objectives and the other long-term interests of a particular entity, or rather a particular organization, or rather a particular firm. Definition. Strategy is a plan of action or a policy designed to achieve a major overall aim. That is according to Oxford Dictionary. According to Alfred D Chandeler, strategy is the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives of an enterprise. and the adaptation of the course of action and the allocation of the resources necessary for carrying out these goals. Again, according to Lord B. Peirce, strategy includes the determination and evaluation of alternative paths to achieve an organization's objective and mission, and eventually a choice of the alternative that is to be adopted. Therefore, the term strategy can be defined in simple words as a broad, long-term plan designed to achieve the overall objectives of the firm. A broad, long-term plan designed to achieve the overall objectives of the firm. In future, in your career, when you become a manager, and I know you will become a manager, you will be sitting in boardrooms with CEOs and board directors, the general manager, operations director, other managers, to plan the strategy of the organization, to come up with a long-term plan designed to achieve the overall objectives of your firm, or rather your organization. Even when you are a security manager, you will be sitting down with your people, you strategize what is our plan to ensuring we have total safety for people, total safety for assets, total safety for property, total safety for all other things that is our job. So strategy is a broad long-term plan designed to achieve the overall objectives of the firm. Nature and characteristics of strategies. Nature and characteristics of strategies. One is objective-oriented. Strategies are developed in order to achieve the objectives of the organization. To formulate strategies, one has to know the objectives that are to be pursued and also the policies that must be followed. So write down nature and characteristics of strategies, and then write down just number one, objective-oriented. Objective-oriented is developed in order to achieve the objectives of the organization. To formulate strategies, one has to know the objectives that are to be pursued and also the policies that must be followed. A future-oriented strategy, number two. Future-oriented strategy is a future-oriented plan. Future-oriented plan. It is designed to attain future position of the organization. Through strategy, management studies the present position of the organization and their aims at attaining the future position of the organization. The strategy provides answers to certain questions relating to profitability of the present business, continuity of the present business, entry into different business in the future, effectiveness of the present policies of the organization, growth and expansion of the business in the long run. So growth and expansion of the business in the long run. Number three is unified, comprehensive, and integrated strategy. A strategy is not just plan, it is a unified, comprehensive, and integrated plan. These are characteristics. It is unified as it unifies all the parts of sections of the organization together. It is a comprehensive as it covers all the major aspects or areas of the organization. It is integrated as all parts of the plan are compatible with each other and fit together well. You know, all organizations have different departments, and these different departments have different managers, and these different managers all come together to try and do their best to attain the organization's overall objective. So characteristics of one of strategies is that it is a unified, comprehensive, and integrated, bringing all the parts of the enterprise or the organization. Then we also have another characteristics which we call strategy alternatives. Organizations need to frame alternative strategies. It is not sufficient to frame one or two strategies. Small organizations survive with one or two strategies due to fewer complexities in their business. However, large organizations need to frame alternative strategies in respect of growth and survival of the organization. It can be into four broad groups: stable growth strategy, retrenchment strategy, and combination strategy. So these are strategy alternatives. There must be an alternative, plan A, plan B, so that if we find that as we move along, we are encountering challenges or obstacles that are making it difficult for us to achieve our overall objectives based on the strategy that we have deployed, then we change to strategy B and we move forward to try, because the overall aim is to eventually achieve the objectives of the enterprise. And then also another characteristic is that strategies relates to the environment. The internal and external environment affects the strategy formulation and implementation. The internal environment relates to mission and objectives of the firm, the labor management relations, and the technology used, the physical, financial, and human resources. The external environment relates to competition, customer, channel, intermediaries, government policies, and other social and economic and political factors. So we have strategies that also characteristics. It relates to the internal environment, and also on the other hand, it relates to the external environment. And then also another characteristic is allocation of resources. For effective implementation of strategy, there is need for proper allocation of the resources. Proper allocation of the resources is required to undertake the various activities so as to attain objectives. The resources can be broadly divided into three groups: physical resources such as plant and machine, financial resources, i.e. capital, and human resources, manpower. And this is where we go wrong mostly in our republic, in that allocation of resources is something that is very challenging, and the resources are not used the proper way to achieve the objectives of particular enterprises or particular entities. Even government ministries, you find that resources are allocated, but the resources are not used in line with the strategy, so we end up missing the objectives, and then we run into difficult issues and challenges. Number 7 is universal applicability. Strategy is a universally applicable. It is applicable to business organization as well as to non-business organization. This is because every organization needs to frame strategies for their growth and survival. The presence of strategies keeps the organizations moving in the right direction. So universal applicability. Write that down as characteristics number 7. Universal applicability. Number 8, we have a periodic review. Strategies are subjected to periodic review. Strategies need to be reviewed periodically. Such a review is required to revise the strategies depending upon the changing needs of the business. Periodic review of strategies is required to gain competitive advantage in the market. So strategies must be reviewed periodically, so that if the strategy is not working, we said we have alternatives, then we can see how can we adjust it to direct the strategy to the objective, so that we achieve the objectives. And then we have also number 9, applicable to all functional areas. Strategies are applicable to all functional areas. The functional areas include production, marketing, finance, human resource management, etc. Strategies aid in planning, organizing, directing, and controlling activities in functional areas. Applicable to all functional areas, including security also. They say functional areas include production, marketing, finance, human resource management, etc. So when we say etc, remember security management is also among the functional areas that are related to also strategies. Strategies aid in planning, organizing, directing, controlling activities in all functional areas. If you don't have a strategy, then it is going to be very difficult. If you are a manager and you are leading a team and you do not have a strategy for your team, where are we heading, and how are we going to manage our work, and how are we going to ensure that we comply with the standards? How are we going to ensure that we comply with the requirements? How are we going to develop our people? How are we going to advance our people career-wise? What is our strategy for making sure that we are an effective department, that we are one of the leading department in this organization? You must have a strategy. So what is strategic management? Let's look at what now strategic management is. We have done a little bit of background. So let's look at the overall meaning of strategic management. We first say organizations exist for a purpose. Every organization exists for a purpose. Every organization or enterprise exists for a purpose. The mission is articulated in a broadly defined but enduring statement of purpose that identifies the scope of an organization's operation and its offering to affected groups and entities. Most organizations of a significant size or stature have developed formal mission statements. So most organizations, for example, if you talk about Safaricom, or if you talk about Kenya Airways, or if you talk about African tours, these organizations have mission statements. What is their mission? They have mission statements because they exist for a purpose. Strategy then refers to the top management's plan to develop and sustain competitive advantage, a state whereby a firm's successful strategies cannot be easily duplicated by its competitors, so that the organization's mission is fulfilled. Following this definition, it is assumed that an organization has a plan. Its competitive advantage is understood, and its members understand the reason for its existence. These assumptions may appear self-evident, but many strategic problems can be traced to fundamental misunderstandings and associated with defining the strategy. Debates over the nature of the organization's competitive advantage, its mission, and whether or not a strategic plan is really needed can be widespread. Comments such as, "We are too busy to focus on developing a strategy," or "I am not exactly sure what my company is really trying to accomplish," can be overheard in many organizations. Even you in the security sector, wherever you are working, or even if you are not in the security sector, you have to understand the mission statement of your organization. You must understand what is the purpose of existence of my organization. Why do we exist as an organization? What is our role? How do we do? What do we do? How do we generate income? How do we use this income that we generate? How do we support the community? What is our strategic plan? Where are we moving in the future, in the short term, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, in the long term? What are our objectives? So you must also make an effort to understand the overall mission statement of your organization. So we come back to this question: what is then strategic management? Strategic management is a broader term than strategy, and it is a process that includes top management analysis of the environment in which the organization operates prior to formulating a strategy, as well as the plan for implementation and control of the strategy. The difference between a strategy and the strategic management process is that the latter includes considering what must be done before a strategy is formulated, through assessing whether or not the successful of an implemented strategy was successful. The success of an implemented strategy was successful. The strategic management process can be summarized in 5 steps. Strategic management process can be summarized in 5 steps. Number 1, external analysis. Analyze the opportunities and threats or constraints that exist in the organization's external environment, including industry and forces in the external environment. So number 1 is external analysis. These are 5 steps for strategic management process. Number 2 is to analyze the organization's strengths and weaknesses in its internal environment. Consider the context of managerial ethics and corporate social responsibility. Even you as a person, you have to craft your personal mission statement clearly. You have to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, or rather you have to analyze your strengths and your weaknesses. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. I believe you have done a course titled Employability Skills. Under Employability Skills, which is part of this curriculum, you will learn about crafting your own a mission statement, your own vision, and also analyzing your strengths and weaknesses, and also conducting a SWOT analysis. This is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. So the 5 steps is external analysis, second step is internal analysis, and then third is strategy formulation. Formulate strategies that build and sustain competitive advantage by matching the organization's strengths and weaknesses with the environment's opportunities and threats. And then number 4 is strategy execution. Implement the strategies that have been developed. Implement the strategies that have been developed. And then number 5 is strategic control. Measure success and make corrections when the strategies are not producing the desired outcomes. Measure success and make corrections when the strategies are not producing desired outcomes. And then there is a sequence here, a sequential order of the steps is logical. Although a thorough understanding of the organization and its environment is essential if the appropriate strategy is to be developed, put into action, and controlled. One could transpose the first 2 steps and analyze the internal environment before the external environment. The logic being that comprehending the organization informs the strategic assessment of factors outside of the firm. The external environment is analyzed before the internal environment. However, because internal goals, resources, and competencies are viewed in a relative fashion to some extent and are understood within the context of the industry and the factors that drive it, this dilemma resembles the chicken and egg argument. In a practical sense, external and external analysis often occurs simultaneously. A distinction between outside and inside perspectives on strategy is also relevant. Outsiders analyzing a firm should apply a systematic approach that progresses through these steps in order. Doing so develops a holistic understanding of the firm, its industry, and its strategic challenges. Sometimes organizations will hire consultancy firms to conduct or to come up with a strategic plan for the overall organization. So these are called outsiders analyzing a firm should apply a systematic approach that progresses through these steps. They hire consultants to carry out an analysis of the firm to find out whether it is in line with its activities are in line with its strategic plan. Inside organizations, strategies are being formulated, implemented, and controlled simultaneously, while external and internal factors are continually in addition, changes in one stage of the strategic management process will inevitably affect other stages as well. After a planned strategy is implemented, it often requires modification as conditions change, because things change, resources become scarce, top management may change, turnover, people go and come to the organization. So as things change, then it requires that the strategy is modified as we move along. Hence, because these steps are so tightly intertwined, insiders tend to treat all of the steps as a single, integrated, ongoing process. Consider the strategic management process at a fast food restaurant chain. At any given time, top managers are likely assessing changes in consumer taste preferences and food preparation, analyzing the activities of competitors working to overcome firm weaknesses, controlling remnants of a strategy implemented several years ago, implementing a strategy crafted months earlier, and formulating strategic plans for the future. Although each of these activities can be linked to a distinct stage in the strategic management process, they occur simultaneously. These processes occur simultaneously. We can say strategic management and strategic planning is an ongoing activity. These activities are ongoing because there are several changes that occur to the organization with time. Several changes that occur to the organization with time, in terms of finances, in terms of advancement in technology, in terms of manpower, people who come and leave the organization. Effective strategy. What are the fundamentals or foundations of an effective strategy? An effective strategy is built on the foundation of organization's business model, the mechanism whereby the organization seeks to earn a profit by selling its goods or services. While all firms seek to produce a product or service and sell it at a price higher than its production and overhead costs, a business model is stated in greater detail. For example, a magazine publisher might adopt a subscription model, an advertising model, or perhaps some combination of the two. Profits will be generated primarily from readers under the subscription model, but from advisors under the advertising model. As we can see, identifying a firm's business model can become more complex when intricate details are considered. Progressive firms often devise innovative business models that extract revenue and ultimately profits from sources not identified by competitors. You see, progressive firms often devise innovative ways. They come up with innovative business models that extract revenue and ultimately profit from sources not identified by competitors. For example, let's talk about Safaricom. It just comes up with a strategy of Mshwari and knows that Mshwari, when you deposit some amount into this account and then you borrow, they will charge an interest. So it comes up with a strategy of Mshwari. While its competitors are concentrating on selling of airtime or selling of data, they come up with a strategy of ensuring they extract revenue and ultimately profit from its customers that has not been identified by its competitors. So you find that the organization, at the end of every fiscal year, they declare profits, very huge profits, because they came up with innovative business models that made the organization able to extract revenue and profit from its customers at the advantage of, to the disadvantage of its competitors. Consider the razor and blades business model invented by Gillette. This is an example. A company gives away or deeply discounts a product, the razor, while planning to profit from future sales of required replacement of complementary products, the blades. Cell phones are often given to customers willing to sign a 2-year service contract. Computer printers are typically sold below production cost, but customers must periodically replace the ink cartridges, which are high margin items. I want to mention something here that this is actually innovative business models to make sure that companies profit, in one way or the other, whereby companies may offer you a phone for free. You sign a 2-year service contract, knowing that within the 2-year service contract, they will have returned the money they used on this phone, or to purchase this phone, or to manufacture this phone. So these are what we call business models, that you come up with a plan. You come up with a business model which is very innovative, that you are offering this, but for a 2-year contract, knowing that within the 2-year contract already the company will have made profits more than the money that was used to manufacture or to generate the initial item. Those are what we call business innovative strategic models. This model is not foolproof, however. In a competitive marketplace, customers may be able to purchase the required complementary product at lower prices from rivals, not under pressure to recoup initial losses. Successful business models can change over time. Since the early 2000s, a number of authors have strayed from the traditional business model whereby book publishers offer contracts and pay royalties of 10% to 15%. Leveraging advances in publishing software, social media, and a strong online retail book market, they have adopted for a self-publishing model. You see how things change. Things change because every entity, every organization wants to make profit. And you can see the complexity of what we are talking about. That companies have to have strategic thinkers, companies have to have strategic plans. And people who come up with this strategic thinking. Even in government, there are those strategic thinkers, the think tanks, who advise the president that this is the direction we should take if we want to maximize on use of the revenue that we have generated from Kenya Revenue Authority, that we have generated through taxes. This is how we can better utilize these strategies. This is how we can better utilize this revenue. So we need to come up with a strategic plan on how we are going to achieve this. And examples are numerous. If you read, you listen to social media, if you read magazines, you realize that every organization has got a strategic plan, and the strategic plan is aimed at achieving its objective. And for those companies that concentrate on generating revenue, the major objective of the company is to ensure that they maximize on the revenue that they are likely to achieve. Then enterprising authors who publish their own work also shoulder the initial risk, but can net as much as 70% return on ebook sales from companies such as Amazon. The total print book and ebook output of self-publishers in the United States rose from 50,000 titles in 2006 to over 125,000 in 2010. While a successful strategy is built on the firm's business model, crafting one can be a challenge. So you can see crafting a strategic plan can be very challenging. And that is why I said I am going to take my time and then introduce to you an aspect of management. Who is a manager, and how do managers come up with strategic plans? And for you to operate at that level, when you reach that level, because you reach that level, then it is important for you to understand the relevance of strategic management, the relevance of strategic thinking. Factors associated with successful strategies. Please write this down. Factors associated with successful strategies. The organization's competitive environment is well understood in detail. You have to understand the environment, the organization's competitive advantage. Then strengths and weaknesses are assessed in a thorough and realistic manner. Strategy is consistent with the mission and goals of the organization. Plans for putting the strategy into action are designed with specificity before it is implemented. And then possible future changes in the proposed strategy, a process called strategic control, are evaluated before the strategy is adopted. These are some of the factors that are very relevant to successful strategies. Don't worry, don't write everything, because I will send you the notes and you can read this, and you can reread and reread and reread until you understand. You know, they say perfection is made out of practice. So if you read and reread and reread, then it will go into your mind, it will go into your memory, and you will start to understand the things from a management perspective. We also say the other factors are a careful consideration of these factors reinforces the interrelatedness of the steps in the strategic management process. Each factor is most closely associated with one of the 5 steps, yet they fit together like pieces of a puzzle. The details associated with the success factors and others will be discussed in greater detail in subsequent chapters or in subsequent presentations. As we go along, we are going to discuss in detail the associated success factors that lead to successful strategies. While some of these success factors are associated with the competitive environment in profit-seeking firms, strategic management is not limited to profit organizations. Strategic management is not limited to profit organizations. And maybe you can think as a class, which other organizations in Kenya do not make profit? Non-profit making organizations, which just discuss examples of profit companies or organizations that are not geared towards really making any profit. Top managers of any organization, regardless of profit or non-profit status, must understand the organization's environment and its capabilities and develop strategies to assist the enterprise in attaining its goals. Former Drexel University president Konstantin Papadakis, for example, was widely considered to be a leading strategic thinker among university top executives. The innovative Greek immigrant promoted Drexel through aggressive marketing while campaigning for all digital library without books. In many respects, he managed the university in the same way that other executives manage profit-seeking enterprises. His annual salary was close to $1 million in the years preceding his death in 2009, making him one of the highest paid university presidents in the United States. So you can see this is one thinker who had very good ideas of ensuring there was an all digital library without books. And he earned a lot of salary from his ability to come up with a very successful strategy. Intended and realized strategy. They are intended and realized strategy. One of the most critical challenges facing organizations is the reality that strategies are not always implemented as originally planned. Sometimes strategic decisions seem to evolve. In this respect, strategy formulation can be seen as an iterative process where decision makers take actions, make sense of those actions afterward, and then decide how to proceed. Henry Mintzberg introduced two terms to help clarify the shift that often occurs between the time a strategy is formulated and the time it is implemented. Henry Mintzberg is one of the authors or one of the scholars who did a lot of study in management. When we look at management, we are going to look at also his theories, some of his theories. An intended strategy, i.e., what management originally planned, may be realized just as it was planned in a modified form or even in an entirely different form. That is very interesting. An intended strategy, the strategy that the company planned from the beginning, may be realized. It may be achieved just as it was planned in a modified form or even in an entirely different form. Occasionally, the strategy that management intends is actually realized, but the intended strategy and the realized strategy, what management implements, usually differ. Hence, the original strategy may be realized with desirable and undesirable results, or it may be modified as changes in the firm or the environment become known. The gap between the intended and the realized strategies usually results from unforeseen environmental or organizational events, better informed that was not available when the strategy was formulated, or an improvement in top management's ability to assess its environment. Although it is important for managers to formulate responsible strategies based on a realistic and thorough assessment of the firm and its environment, things invariably change along the way. So we have to appreciate that things invariably change along the way. That even you may plan, you may have your own strategic plan. That I plan within the next 5 years, I want to graduate with a bachelor's degree in information security, or I have to graduate with a master's degree in risk, crisis, and disaster management. But then along the way, as you move, things change. Your wife gets a baby unexpectedly, so you have to divert your finances to bringing up the new baby, or your close relative becomes sick and you have to divert funds to helping this close relative, or you had bought a plot somewhere which you expected to sell and get money to pay your fees, and then you fail to get a buyer. So things change. So you continue with your strategy, working on your strategy, but things have changed. So you have to do a reassessment and find out how am I going to achieve my strategy? How will I realize my strategy? Then hence, it is common for such a gap to exist, creating the need for constant strategic action if a firm is to stay on course. Instead of resisting modest strategic changes when new information is discovered, managers should search for new information and be willing to make such changes when necessary. This activity is part of strategic control, the final step in the strategic management process. So strategic control involves appreciating that changes exist and then working on the new information that has been discovered and making changes appropriately to ensure that the intended strategy is realized. Even though the firm or the enterprise may not use the exact plan that it had in mind, changes occurred along the way, but they made modifications, they took new steps in ensuring that they achieved the strategy as it was intended from the beginning. So we have to understand that in strategic management, we come up with a plan for achieving objectives. However, along the way, the plan may change, and we have to factor in these changes, and we have to make modifications based on the new information as we move ahead. So managers, directors, general managers, CEOs have a lot of responsibility in crafting strategic management plans of their organizations because they have to achieve the objectives and goals. As we go along, we are also going to look at objectives and goals and how are these realized. We are also going to look at mission statements. How are they crafted in organizations? What we are introducing to you in this topic as a strategic management, we are introducing to you aspects of a high level of management with a hope that and confidence that in the future you will rise to the position of a security manager, you will rise to the position of a general manager, and you'll be able to play a major role in strategic planning of your firm or your enterprise or even your own personal business. With those few remarks, I wish to stop there, and then we will focus on the next lesson. I will share with you exactly what we shall be looking at, because we shall be looking at process elements of strategic management, process elements now of strategic management, which is strategy formulation, strategy implementation, strategy evaluation. We shall also be looking at scientific and artistic perspectives to strategic management. Scientific and artistic perspective to strategic management. So thank you very much. We will continue in the next lesson. Bye-bye.